Hello, everyone. I am Nikita McDaniels, and I am so appreciative. I'm so happy, and I'm so excited to be with you all this morning and kind of give you some information in regards to debt and how getting into debt will benefit you more than getting out of it. That sounds so super crazy, right? And I know I'm throwing you for a loop. I put the title purposely that way so that it can seem interesting because debt is something that people shy away from, especially when they're going through it. Before I get into the information, I only got 30 minutes, so I'm going to be speaking pretty quickly. But if you want to ask me some questions personally, you can always go to my website at failure2fabulous.com, and you can always message me and I will send you back a message within 48 hours of me receiving your message. So what gives me the right to be able to sit down and explain all of this to you? Well, several years ago, I was in debt myself, an awful lot of debt. I had a foreclosure on my debt. I had a tremendous amount of credit card bills on my debt. No student loans. I know a lot of people do have student loans. They're about the hardest debt that you can get rid of. And matter of fact, I don't think you can get rid of Fannie Mae. I think they find you wherever you go. So that's one debt that you want to make sure you pay off. But I just had a tremendous amount of responsibility when it came financially that was really holding me back from a lot of things in life. And so I began looking at ways to relieve myself of this debt. And there are so many debt companies out there that do exactly what they say. They help you get rid of the negative debt on your credit so that your score can rise. I get it. But what I didn't get was the aftermath, the effect. What do I do after I have restored my credit? My score is low, but I don't have any negative inquiries on there. How do I rebuild this all over again? And so I went on a journey in search of myself and how I even got to be in debt in the first place, right? One of the reasons that I got in debt was the habits, okay? My habits of how I spent my money. The other reason that I got into debt was my ignorance surrounding money and how it actually operated. You see, most of us, all we're taught is to spend, right? So that's basically what we do. We spend money, and half the times because of the amount of debt that we have, it brings on a lot of pain. And so a lot of the spending habits that we have is surrounded around masking that pain. So why am I telling you to get in debt instead of getting out of debt? Because in the world that we live in, you cannot get anything without having a substantial amount of credit. People don't know you. They're not your family. They're not your friends. They won't take your word for it, especially if you have a bad history of paying your bills, right? They really won't believe anything that you have to say. So when you're trying to make big purchases, such as buying a house, buying a car, something for emergency funds, starting a business, they will not lend you money, right? And unless you're walking around with that kind of money in your bank account, then you could do it yourself. You wouldn't need the bank. But the reality is most people aren't walking around with that type of money in their bank account, in their pocket, in their safe at home. They just don't have it. So you're going to need that bank one way or the other. So you also know that when we're dealing with just straight cash, which most people who have bad credit do, you deal with straight cash, but you will run into roadblocks such as not having enough cash, all right? And then besides the cash, the paper trail. When you actually need to provide the amount of income that you're making to get into an apartment complex, to apply for various different things in life. They want to see your history of income. If you don't have paperwork showing how much you make, then you're in trouble again. So it's really no getting around it, all right? So debt. The great part about it is you want to get rid of the negative debt. All right, you want to get rid of that. On the flip side, once you get rid of the negative debt, you got to start rebuilding your life, right? And we don't start rebuilding our life by getting back in debt. But if you've not had any training, and I'm not talking about debt counseling or debt restoration training, I am merely talking about if you have not had any training in your lifestyle, in yourself, and what it is that you want, you will incorporate those old habits again, and you will find yourself back in debt all over again. And this is about 30 to 40% of the people who take on debt restoration. They find themselves right back in debt again. Why? Because they do the program, but the program doesn't serve any justice after they've completed the program. They've wiped away the negative history, but they don't know how to manage their money, and they definitely do not know how to manage credit. So I want to share with you some information, and that is the reason for this 30-minute hangout in regards to debt restoration. I want to share with you that you can clear your debt up and you can start all over again and be successful at managing your debt, at managing your money. And how do you do this? Learn how to manage your lifestyle. Begin to live a more simplistic life than a complicated one. Keep what you need, let go what you don't. Stop chasing. All right? We chase things for all different reasons, but every reason that we're chasing, it stems back to us. We are the nucleus of our whole entire little world, right? The reason that debt is so interesting to me is because it's one of those double-edged swords. It can hurt you as much as it can help you. I talk about great debt because in order for you to build yourself and your credit back up, you got to have some form of debt. You have to have some form of payment history. So if you got to have it, then you want it to be great, right? So then you begin to take on debt that is considered good debt, that is giving you a return and is not eating up your debt ratio, so that when people look at you on paper, because believe it or not, that's all they care about, right? They're not looking at you for the person that you are. And I'm quite sure that a lot of you are great people. But when it comes to looking at you on paper and not staring in your face, you give a horrible impression, right? So you want to get credit, or debt, I should say, that is low on your debt ratio, that is bringing in a return, and your living expenses is not the same amount as your debt, meaning anything could come in between the debt and the living expenses, and then you're back in bad debt all over again. So there are two types of debt. Really, there are. There are good and there are bad debt. What are some of the good debts? Well, if you're invested in property, if you're invested in stocks and bonds, mutual funds, if you're investing in investments that is compounding the money and giving you back great returns, that is good debt. Bad debt is when you got credit cards maxed out to the limit, when you got credit cards at 50% of the limit. Okay, when you're not paying your bills and these bills are reporting you as a late payer, when you are living in a rental property and then the rental or the leasing agencies are reporting that you are paying your rent late. Anybody that is giving you a negative outlook as to how you were when they dealt with you could hurt your credit. Not to mention, how many times are you going to apply for credit? Because if you're constantly seeking information from banks and different institutions for money, now you look desperate, okay? And you look like a bad candidate. If they won't give you money, why should I? So the world of credit, it is very complicated, but it can be very simple if you decide to sit down and get a hold of what's going on in your financial world and make light and sense of it. And that's what I want to help you with. I work with a company that basically takes on challenge credit clients, and we basically sit down with you well, you'll be sitting down with me, or we'll be doing a hangout or a Skype, but we'll be doing a one-on-one session, just like you're sitting here on Google Hangout listening to. And we're going to go through all the things that you've gone through in the beginning of when your credit started getting crazy up until now, where you're to the point where you got to get something done with it. And when you do that, when we sit down with each other, after we sit down, we're going to also talk about how we can get it cleared up, how much time it will take to clear it up. Because a lot of people, they want to start getting their credit squared away for the majority when they are ready to invest in a home, right? And you definitely don't want a 30-year mortgage with the highest interest rate you can possibly get just to be in a house. It don't make sense. That's a long time to carry a loan. And it's almost for certain that you will default on that loan given the amount of time you have to hold on to it, right? So we talk to you about how your credit got that away. We get into what's habit forming for you. Why are you spending the way that you're spending? Do you absolutely have to spend the way that you're spending? All right. And then we set up a site for you. It is your personal site where you can go back and forth and manage what's being deleted opposed to what's still there. We send out all your letters to the company that you are responsible for owing debt, which is Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. They send letters back, and we constantly keep doing this back and forth until they're no longer able to hold you responsible for the debt. And that can happen for a bunch of reasons. Number one, time has lapsed, okay? They can only hold on to these debts for a certain amount of time. Number two, information. A lot of these credit card places don't have the right information, don't have the correct spelling of your name, your social security card number, don't have the correct address. And so rightfully, it may not be your debt, it may be your debt. We don't know, but we want them to prove that it's your debt in order for them to keep attaching it to your credit report. Thirdly, some of these companies that you owe, they're not even in business any longer, all right? They done sold your debt to somebody else. There is a market for people selling debt. It's crazy. People making money off of anything, right? And we want you to start making money and stop giving your money away. So there are companies out here that buy old debt from these companies that's gone under. They're still trying to hold you responsible for it. We're going to tell you tricks and tips, secrets that you can get out of this debt and do not have to pay it. All right? Because the moment you agree, oh yeah, that was my debt, then now that new company, you're no longer obligated to the old company. You're now obligated to the new company. And now it's a new inquiry, a new ding on your credit that will bring your credit score down further. So we're going to show you how to avoid all of that. All right. And the greatest thing about this, most companies that help you restore your debt, you pay them a fee and then they do all the work. You never hear from them again. And they may do a great job. But what happens, like I said earlier in this hangout, when your bad habit kicks in and guess what? You start spending all over again and you find yourself in debt again. What happens? Well, now you got to call that company all over again. And the cycle just continuously keeps repeating yourself. We're not looking for cyclomatic clients. This is a one-on-one restoration where you're actually working with myself, a counselor that I've been trained in this area by a company. And I am also experienced in this area because I too, again, was in debt at one time, a significant amount of debt. So we show you all of the things necessary for you to get out of debt, and we teach you at the same time so that if it ever happens again, which we hope that it does not, you're not left in the blind. You'll know exactly what to do. You can do it on your own, okay? We'll work with you until the inquiries are depleted, and then we'll begin to rebuild how you operate with money, how you making purchases. Are you making purchases from emotional stress? Are you making purchases from being depressed? Because a lot of times, you know, we are emotional shoppers and shopping makes us feel great. until you get home and you look at all the bags and you still got the bills and you start having buyer's remorse. So there's a lot of things that surrounds the debt world that you need to be understanding of in order for you to learn how to manage debt. We're about 15 minutes in the broadcast, so we got about 15 minutes to go. I just want to give you all a background of who I am for some of you who are on the call, never dealt with me before, not on my Facebook page. I am Nikita McDaniels, and I am an investor. I am a coach, a new author, a mommy of 4, and I love to travel, okay? And I work with people one-on-one, primarily women between the ages of 30 and 45, and I help them to turn their problems into opportunities. I like to say money, but some people like the word opportunities. I know the subject money is somewhat taboo for a lot of people, so I'm going to say opportunities. And how do I take people and turn their problems into opportunities? While a lot of people are fearful of their problems, they run from problems, they don't approach problems, and there is a systematic way of approaching problems. And there's also a way that you can respond to your problems instead of reacting, which can also blow them up and make them worse than what they are. And so I teach you self-mastery skills. And when you learn how to master the adversities, when you learn how to master yourself, then you'll learn how to master the adversities in your life. You will become a much more greater person. You'll become very tolerable of your circumstances. And then you'll begin to make great decisions and choices, which will ultimately lead to your freedom, okay, and you beginning to enjoy life. And so as a coach, I work with women on that angle. As an investor, I also show women that once you get yourself in order, where you know what it is you want, you know how long you want to take to get there, you know what your investments are to get there. Then I show women how to start a business if you're interested in starting a business. Start a small hobby if you're interested in starting a small hobby. But in doing those two things, you're going to do it in a way that doesn't feel like work, because you're going to be doing something that you love, not something that is taking you away even more from your families. I'm a mom of 4. So I know how that is. And I have a few businesses. So the last thing I want to do is get involved in something that's going to take me out of my environment, because my kids mean a lot to me. And I don't want to spend more time away from home. That's another great reason for the restoration program that I work with, because it allows you to do it from your home, where some places you got to come to their office a few times out of the month, or go to some location a few times out of the month. With me, you don't have to do that. We will basically meet online. As you see that there are a lot of businesses online, and they're doing great business online. You know, it's just a point of the love and trust factor between the two people. And in order to get that, I would suggest that you go to my Facebook page, Nikita McDaniel. You can also go to my website at failure2fabulous, the numeric number 2.com. You can also check me out on Instagram, Coach Kita. I'm on Pinterest, Nikita McDaniels, or you can Google me, okay? Nikita McDaniels, and you'll get, I'm sure, a bunch of information about who I am and what it is that I do. I am also on the call if you have any questions about what it is that you may be experiencing, because I know that everybody's experience is different. I'm going to talk about some common questions that people ask me about credit, and maybe this will jog your or probe your mind as to what credit question. I'm a little tongue-tied here. It's early. What questions that you may have for me? Some people ask me, how long does it take to get your credit restored? Well, I can tell you it all depends on the amount of inquiries you have. How much outstanding debt is on your credit? All right. So if you got 10 to 20 inquiries, it may take 3 to 6 months. It all depends. So if you're trying to weigh your options in terms of buying a house and getting your credit fixed, you don't want to wait till the last minute. You want to give yourself 6 months to a year to get that stuff straight. And I know a lot of people, they want to wait for the right time. There is never a right time. If you notice, every time you wait for the right time, something always come up, making you believe it's the wrong time. All right. So when you think about it, and if you see it's a problem, the best way to handle your problems is handle them right away. Do not let them sit around and linger, and it becomes a mountain of problems like you do your debt, okay? Your debt begins to grow. Your problems can grow also. Makes life very complicated. Other people ask me, how much does credit restoration cost? Well, credit restoration can cost anywhere from $300 and up. It all depends on the services that the company provides. Our credit restoration starts under $500. Okay, because we know that people who are trapped in the debt world don't have a lot of cash on hand. And then a lot of times if they do, once again, their spending habits won't allow them to hold on to the money long enough so that they can prepare themselves to be a part of a program. So with that being said, our program also has payment plans. So you can actually do the program on a payment plan and be done with it. Is the program online? Yes, our debt restoration program is online. You'll have your own website. Nobody can see the information but you and the company and myself. And basically we keep track. We become your accountability partner so that we can assure that all that we're sending you out to do, you are actually doing it. Again, some of these companies, you pay them and then you never see them again, and you don't know if what they say that they're doing, they are doing. You actually will have a phone number to talk with me or a representative of the company if you get into any problems or should run into a snag along the way. Can the credit card companies ding you twice for the same debt? Well, I'm going to put this away as bold as I possibly can. The credit card companies can do whatever they want. Even though there's a Fair Credit Card Act law, there are items or things that occur in the credit card world if you're not paying close attention to your credit card scores, or if you're not getting a credit report every year, which you can go on freecreditreport.com and get, then you don't know what's on your credit until you get it ran during that special occasion when you're applying for something and you get turned down, and then they come and tell you, oh, you had this purchase on your credit, but you didn't even know about it. So yes, they can ding you for whatever they want to ding you. They don't send you any notification out. They just automatically assume that it's you applying for something when an inquiry comes in. So that's another good reason to work with us, because we actually give you a program that basically will let you know. It's an alert system, will let you know if anybody is using your social security number or trying to get credit on your behalf. You'll be alerted immediately, okay? And you get all of this while you are in the restoration program. How about education? How do you know what's going on in the credit, the Equifax, the TransUnion, and Experian world? Do they send out any information? I don't think they send it out personally, but information is all over the web. All right. Now, the difference between the web and us, we give you the information that applies to you. Whereas on the web is so much information in abundance, you don't know either how to utilize it. You don't know if it's old information, because a lot of businesses will sell you old information. And that's because they make a program up. The program is years old before you become a client. And so they're still selling you that old information. The great thing about working with me is that you have a live person. And so I'm getting live updates daily. And if I'm getting them, you're getting them also. So there are tons of benefits for working with a credit restoration company and a counselor all in one. And not to mention a counselor with my experience in real estate, that I am licensed as an agent. I work with Century 21 part-time, and that I am an investor and have my own investment properties. And like I said, I'm a coach. And so I basically help people, basically better themselves in their lifestyle, because all of what you're doing is essentially made up of your lifestyle. No one chooses that. You choose that, okay? But some of us need help putting it all together, and that's okay, because I needed help putting it all together. Hell, I have a coach because I believe that a coach is valuable to my life, because it keeps me in focus as to what it is that I want for myself and my family. This will be recorded, so you can get the recording on my Google page once we stop the broadcast, which will be in a few minutes, or you can go on my Facebook page and get the broadcasting. Once again, I encourage you to have good debt, okay? When you get out of debt, you need to get back in debt, but you need to have great debt so that you can begin to accumulate great things and do greatness with what you've accumulated. That's what this whole get into debt is all about. I don't want you to run up more bills and be in bad debt. I want you to get out your bad debt, get into good debt by investing, by doing your stocks, by getting into vehicles, putting your money into vehicles that makes you more money, that compounds your interest. That's what it's all about. If you want to know more about me, go to my website, failuretofabulous.com. It was really nice talking to you today. Have a great one and a great weekend. Bye-bye.